Look at this. Moussaka. Absolutely delish. Greetings, beautiful people. Welcome back to Uncle Lou's Kitchen. Folks, what's happening? Today we're going to be making something called moussaka. This is like a Greek lasagna type thing. It's the closest way to explain it. Now, instead of having pasta layers, it's got eggplants or aubergines, it's got potatoes, and it's absolutely delicious. I'm going to be showing you a fairly simple way to do this. It's a process to make, but once you've made it, just make a large batch of it so you can freeze it and everything. So, yeah, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. 100% vegan, as always. Let's get cooking. Okay, folks, so the moussaka comes in several stages. So it's all about the layers. So we've got here, first of all, let's start with the potatoes then, because that's going to be the bottom layer. So I'm using this size potato. I've got 3 of those, and I've cut them to ½ centimetre thick. The meaty layer, I've got about 600 grams here of vegan mincemeat. Then for the aubergine layer, I'm using 3 medium to large eggplants, and I've sliced them, as you can see, like that kind of thickness. I've got here a large onion, which I've chopped, 3 cloves of garlic, 2 bay leaves, teaspoon of salt, teaspoon of pepper, 2 heaped tablespoons of tomato puree, teaspoon of cinnamon, ½ teaspoon of nutmeg. I've got 500 grams here of tomato passata, tomato sauce. Now, the final layer is the bechamel sauce. We're going to be doing a vegan version. So I've got a litre here of soy milk, 120 grams of plain white flour, 100 grams of vegan butter. Now, I'm making a batch of this because it's a process to make, and if you're going to make it, you may as well go large with it so that they freeze, you can keep them in the fridge, and you can basically microwave them afterwards as well. So yeah, if you've got like a smaller tin than that and you're only making it for one dinner, one evening, just half the recipe and you're fine. Okay, we're going to start off with the eggplants now. So here's the thing with eggplants, right? So these guys, they love oil, and they literally soak it all up. So what I'm going to do is just salt them to kind of dehydrate them first of all. Okay, and you want to do this on every slice that you have, back and front. Okay, so you're basically rubbing them. I'm using iodized salt for this. Iodized salt is basically salt with iodine in it, because I buy this because my baby, basically, for vegan babies, you need to get hold of iodized salt because they don't get enough iodine naturally in their diets. So it's just a little something you can do for that. And then once they're done, we're going to let them sit. Okay, so that's done now, as you can see. I'm going to let that sit for about ½ an hour while I work on everything else. The next bit, we're going to deep fry our potatoes in sunflower oil. Now, while that gets up to temperature, we need to dry off our potatoes. So I've got some kitchen towel here. So now we're going to go very carefully, and we're just going to drop the potatoes in until they go golden. Okay, so 5–10 minutes have passed. Potatoes, they're going golden. Now we're going to take them out. Then we're going to go back to our aubergines. So now we're back to our eggplants or aubergines. I don't know if you can see this, but they're bleeding out all over the place. That's thanks to the salt, and that's exactly what we want. So I'm going to dry these out, and then we're going to fry them. I'm going to be using a lot of kitchen towel here today. And by patting them down as well, you're going to get rid of some of the salt too, so wouldn't worry too much. So they've all been piled up just so that you can see basically what happens. That's all from that. So let's get frying. Now, once you can see that they've gone to this kind of color, that's what you're looking for. We're going to set those aside, then we're going to work on the filling. So we are back, and I've managed to save this amount of clean oil. As you can see, there's quite a lot there, which is good. We're going to start off by frying our onions and the garlic. Now, as I always say, add a touch of water. This is a trick my aunt taught me. Add a touch of water, and then what happens is, instead of them burning up, they kind of almost boil in their own sugars and stuff, and it just comes out much nicer. Then you don't have to worry about them burning. But you only want to add a touch. So the water's died down, and you can see they're a very shiny white color. They're not golden, and that's okay. Now I'm going to add in the 600 grams of mincemeat. You can see the difference in the two. I'm using 2 different types. I haven't used this type before. It's apparently made with mushrooms. So if the meat seems tough, and like the vegan meat obviously, if it seems tough and hard to break, just get one of these and just... At this point, it's on a low flame now. I'm just going to add in the salt to kind of drain it as much as possible of any water that's inside. Right, so that's been cooking for about a minute now. What I'm going to do is add in the tomato puree. I'm then going to be adding the passata, cinnamon, black pepper, bay leaves. We're going to be taking them out at the end, so try not to break them. Now I'm going to put that on a low flame and I'm just going to add about a cup of water in there. Starting with half a cup, see how we go. Now make sure you taste it always. Nice. I'm going to put that to the side and then we're going to work on the final part, which is the bechamel sauce. Okay, so that's been transferred now. I've taken out the 2 bay leaves there. Pretty much all done. If you've got any of this left over from the moussaka, then you could always just add some herbs to make it kind of like Italian, basil and oregano. So now we're on a medium-low flame. Okay, I'm going to add in the butter. Going to be using a whisk. We're going to start off by making what's called a roux, which is basically butter and flour. And it works just as well with vegan butter as well, so. Now you're going to see me whisking. I'm going to put it on super speed, but the color at the end of it, you don't want it to go brown, okay? So just make sure it's like kind of golden's fine, brown's not. The moment I put the flour in, that's when I'm going to go full speed, okay? I'm going to start a little bit at a time. You don't want any lumps. This is going to act as a thickener, which will then make your bechamel sauce. Further down the line, you'll see it start smelling like cookie dough. Okay, we're getting there. Once you can see that the whisk can literally just break it apart and you've got some drier bits in there, that's okay. Can you see it's like splitting apart? Before in the beginning it was just kind of liquidy. I'm going to add in a little bit of soy milk at a time and I'm going to keep whisking. I'm going to start with about 1 cup. Remember, no lumps. It's already very thick. Once that gets to a smooth consistency, I'm just going to add in the rest. So I've added, in the meanwhile, half the carton. Now it looks like kind of mashed potatoes and it gets a bit harder to stir. I'm just going to add in everything now. Then basically, once that's smooth, we're going to add in the nutmeg and about half a teaspoon of the pepper. And that's it. Right, so we've got that nice and smooth now. Add in nutmeg and the rest of the black pepper. The thickness you want for this is like a custard or cream, but like a runny kind of cream. But once this cools down, it's probably going to go thicker anyway, so don't let it get too thick. Then you just want to taste it, make sure it's got enough salt in there. I didn't add any, but there's going to be some from the vegan butter, but do taste it to see if it requires any more. So I've tasted it, I'm just going to add a little bit of salt in there. Right, so a couple of minutes have passed. This is the thickness that I want. It's runny, but it's not as thick as it will be in the end. So remember, you've got like a string when it drizzles. That's what you want. You can see there's a little tail behind when I stir it. That's where you want it. I'm turning that off now. And what we're going to do is we're going to add some of that to the mincemeat that we made earlier. Now, remember in my flan video, I told you always cut these. Because sometimes in the scrap yards, the birds can get to them and they peck at them and then their beaks get trapped in them and then they can't eat and they die. So always cut these things. Now with our bechamel sauce, I'm literally just going to get about 2 of these. I'm going to stir it in. This gives it a really nice richness. That's done. The next bit, we start layering our moussaka. Not moussaka, or moussaka. Moussaka. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started. So, what I'm going to do to start off with, I'm just going to get a little bit of our oil. This is quite an oily dish, but then Greek food tends to be. Should be using olive oil, but it's okay. Zero waste policy. Just going to grease the tin. Layer 1, potatoes. Tiny miscalculation, they shrunk. This generally you want to fill it right in, so it's okay, it's still good. Next layer, the mince. Next layer, eggplants. Next, I'm going to put one final layer of the mincemeat. If you've got extra aubergines, do another layer of them, and then the final bit is the bechamel sauce. Okay, now that's all done, we're going to bake it on 180 degrees for 40 minutes or until it gets golden. So if it's not golden enough on the top, put it in for another 10 minutes. Okay, you beauties. Check it out. Right, so this is exactly where you want it. That's fresh out the oven right now. It's still bubbling. Do not touch this. Do not eat it yet because you'll burn your mouth off. Alrighty, we're going to let that cool down and we'll slice up a little plate, shall we? Look at this. Moussaka. Absolutely delish. Seriously, you got the layers, you got the potatoes, the aubergines, or eggplants if you prefer. That's how it's done. Guys, as always, if you enjoyed this video and recipe, hit the like button, hit subscribe, leave a comment down below. There are never any animals or animal products on this channel and you'll learn food from all around the world. Have a good and see you next time. Ciao for now.